See that for certain special goods to be transported, the transport, uh, the transportation industry or the logistics industry has also been relying on some innovative ways to improve the efficiency of transport and at the same time storage of some sensitive goods. And even for the normal goods, they do certain dynamic simulations, such as if you forget about the perishable goods and if we just focus our attention to the normal goods, there as well certain care is always taken, such as for in the case of home appliances industry. If you have to transport a set of cooking ovens, uh, if a company like Bosch, Siemens, or Whirlpool, etc., if these companies are supposed to transport certain cooking ovens or washing machines, whatever these are, they are packed in such a way that to efficiently use the space of packaging, well, basically, one item is placed upon the other in the packaging, and so that kind of gives some creep load on the component which is lying down there. So the component which sits up is exerting its weight as the load onto it. And not only that, there is this shuffling problem. I mean, when you transport it, there are vibrations that are felt by a truck which is transporting these goods on the road. So it's possible to actually virtually simulate all these scenarios, which is to say that the logistics industry has also been working with the R&D sections within the company. Maybe previously this R&D was greatly outsourced, but the new trend is that the transportation companies like many other bigger OEM players are also trying to be more efficient at the things that they do, such as properly packaging the goods, avoiding any complaints from the customers whoever ordered this transport of the freight, and also they are working upon reducing material costs. I mean to say, they are ordering for custom make or custom manufacturing of this packaging materials or the storages. I mean, these simulations have gone in so deep that in the case of the same example that I mentioned about a Whirlpool or a Bosch or a Siemens transporting these home appliances, they are also dedicating their research towards finding out the patterns that a cardboard sheet is supposed to take, because that's being used in the material packaging and transport, right? And it has to bear the load and it has to safeguard the items that are being uh, transported from any other dangers. So the reason why I indicated about the cardboard in a specific sense is because the cardboard structure is not so easy to realize in a computational environment. But of course, there have been case studies which have achieved it through certain custom built modeling options. I mean, they had to write certain more custom built routines and so on. And then it was possible to conceive and realize the inclusion of such cardboard structures also in terms of mathematical elements representative in a computational environment. So, um, well, there could have been some standard testing procedures which will artificially bring up the effect of vibrations, for example, that are felt by these equipment when they are getting transported. I mean, a physical experiment may be possible, but usually, first, they may not transfer very efficiently each and every physical effect that is felt in a uh, truck driving path. There may be certain limitations to it. Okay, well, you can also call it in a way that in such testing, the worst case scenario is something which is getting tested. But then, because of those sort of tests, there could be a wastage of material because the factor of safety that is usually considered in the scenario is associated with a worst case scenario. But the whole question is how many times a peak worst adverse case scenario is indeed encountered in reality. It could be, well, the frequency is lesser, but still probably the logistics company is spending a lot on just the higher side of the material inclusion or the higher side of purchasing certain things. So of course, custom manufacturing firms which take orders according to the exact requirements of the end firm or the end client are as of today able to offer any manufacturing services. Manufacturing itself is being offered as a service. So therefore, the outputs from R&D of all these logistics companies are being communicated with such uh, custom manufacturing organizations, and they are to take care of a tailor-made manufacturing of cardboards or the packaging material, etc., for these industries. So in general, if you talk about the role of simulations in the logistics or the good transport industry, that's how it is. So now we are diving one layer down from there. We are talking about even specialized goods. I mean, we are talking about goods which are not just something fragile, but we are talking about something that can be perishable. It could be food, chemicals, especially in the current pandemic situation. It could be a lot about the COVID vaccinations as well that we are talking about. So those are more sensitive, in fact. Uh, then the containers are also supposed to be equipped with refrigerant cycles that are being run there. It's just like a mini fridge that you're uh, positioning these perishable goods within, which could be, like I said, vaccines, food, or etc. chemicals. And these sensitive perishable goods are being transported. Then it is more costly affair because of the kind of containers that have to be built and used. So custom manufacturing is the only solution. Instead of just buying certain containers off the shelf, these logistics companies are supposed to focus upon their in-house R&D. And whenever
Sorry
we
to
talk,
interrupt, Santosh. Are you
yeah,
on the first slide of the presentation?
yes, of course, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Um,
okay.
okay. So basically, it gets more sensitive and to be a costly affair whenever you cross the paths and want to transport much sensitive goods. Therefore, custom manufacturing through proper in-house R&D is going to save a lot of cost structure to these companies. Well, companies which don't do the R&D with simulations can also think about outsourcing their work initially, getting it done. I mean, I'm talking about the simulation work, of course. They can just outsource for the simulation work, just the way they outsource for custom manufacturing. Both manufacturing of the containers and also the simulation work as well can be outsourced. That's one option. Well, ultimately, it's a really good practice to think about building a in-house team and running the R&D efficiently. Simulation is all about an opportunity provided in a virtual sense, wherein you can test any number of, actually an umpteen number of concept ideas can be very easily tested in a virtual environment, and a lot of useful insights sometimes or most of the times much more than what a real experimentation can offer can always be realized through simulations. Well, in stating such forms of facts, intention is never be or has never been to undermine the need for actual experimentation or to replace entire experimentation with simulations. Simulations always complement the real-time experiments greatly, which is to say that the number of simulations that you are going to do without the involvement of simulations, those experiments can come down. But when I say come down, they can't come down to a zero, obviously. Well, and it's also very hard to exactly state a proper ratio by which or percentage by which they do come down, because well, there are case to case variations in that. But yes, there have been cases where as much as more than 50% of experiments have been not in the need because simulations took their place. Yeah. So yeah, it's basically a complementing solution whenever it comes to simulations. So we are going to discuss more about these simulations. These are just general introductions. Yeah. So we call this logistics shipping anyway, cold chain. I mean, supply chain, cold chain. These things go by an interchangeable sense of names. Uh, Cold chain shipping is just the supply chain specific to the supply, transport of the perishable goods or these type of sensitive items being transported. That's it about. So we'll see the engineering challenges in them, how simulation can help, and so on. Well, before directly diving into whatever case studies we wanted to show you upon the topic or whatever light we wanted to project upon the topic, we will try to go through certain generic slides, especially from examples that are picked from the pharmaceutical industry, just so that we can create a basic ground of understanding before we touch the real topic, in a way for you to understand the importance of simulations and what exactly simulations can bring on to the table, what can they exactly offer. So we kind of wanted to discuss it in that sense. Yeah. Well, I think this is what we already discussed. Especially pharmaceutical drugs are seen to be more sensitive in the scenarios of this cold storage, and they are faced with the requirement of getting transported only in colder conditions. And well, so what we really see by requirements of cold chain shipping, well, it wants something to be minimized as the possibility of good degradation, and product quality has to be assured. I mean, the product by the time it is transferred to the desired target or destination has to still have the proper quality without any disturbance. Well, certain parameters that you can really play around optimizing within simulations are also seen here. The cooling technique itself, apart from that, the right material, size of those materials, I mean the dimensions, length, breadth, height, and any other curvature dimensions, so on. And the, like I said, the whole design of the shipping container, all these can be varied. I mean, you may have so many concept ideas from the sense of domain experience and expertise, and you can try to translate that into simulations by um, playing around with a lot of parameters. You may have so many concept ideas, as I said, but the feasibility of testing all of them to the end of the concept realization may not be possible and feasible in reality because of time and also monetary costs associated with that. So, as I said, taking up the help of simulations should be able to help you reduce these costs. These are the listed parameters that you can really play around with. The cooling technique itself. Maybe it could be about the placement of a particular blower fan anywhere, or maybe the changing of the refrigerant, or maybe you want to change the structure of the loop or the circuit through which a refrigerant is even flowing, or the mass flow rate at which it is kind of flowing, wherein you change the capacity of the pump which operates to kind of make it flow like that. So all these are parameters indeed uh, to the design of a concept idea, and all these dimensions can be tested very well using simulations. It could not be possible, or maybe there is a lack of opportunity of testing all of them in reality, but well, in simulations you can actually make bigger ways. Yeah. Well, different products, based on what product you're trying to again target and transport, right? You do have different kind of requirements of how they are supposed to be stored within different temperatures. Blood, if you're transporting that for of course medicinal purposes, it should stay between 2 to 6 degrees centigrade. A drug vaccine usually should be staying between minus 70 to 5 degrees centigrade. Frozen food, it needs to be kind of at minus 18 degrees centigrade. So as you can see, for about drug vaccines, there is a bigger range that we are showing up here. Well, because it could really matter from case to case. These days, the technology of storing materials like these in required temperatures is going to be tremendously changing. I mean, it's not just active cooling techniques that are adopted in this industry, but this industry is also getting to adopt passive cooling technologies such as the phase change materials. There are these special phase change materials that are gaining popularity for their right merits these days in the automotive and also in the medical or other cold chain logistics industries. So they are actually they qualify, they deserve to be a very good R&D topic as well. Well, there are many ways in which simulation can be started by the logistics companies if they don't yet have a team for that uh, in-house. There are ways, I mean to say, they could probably just sponsor the research of a intern who wants to just complete his master thesis, or maybe in some cases a bachelor thesis from areas such as mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, etc. So a company can step out basically to start even like that. So that would not be a very big costly affair compared to hiring somebody in house and all together from a scratch starting up something. They can just partner with a university or so on. And then well, there are several ways in which simulation can be at first started and then taken forward in a more aggressive sense once the benefits are seen. But the point is to say that these companies are supposed to start somewhere. I think at the end of this presentation, we will also talk about a particular company in Switzerland, which very recently adopted simulations of all forms and has been in the news, in fact, for saving a lot of costs and for being very efficient in terms of transporting vaccination. We will talk about the merits and the company has been able to entail because of introducing simulations into their workflows. So yeah. Engineering challenges. Well, again, when we are talking about these engineering challenges, we would also like to focus more about the drug product in transit. There can be unexpected temperature extremes. Well, there could be custom delays. It could really stay down just because of a custom detainment because some papers are missing or something else. There is a possibility of mishandling in the way it is being carried. There could be multiple partners or multiple parties involved in the whole supply chain that could also cause some mishap. Well, different drug products could have different packaging materials. All in all, the whole reason why we talk a lot about the drug products in transit is because if they are not stored in the given temperatures, the loss is not just about having to face their vaporization and the loss of the material, but the loss is about changes that can come because of the temperature into their medicinal values or medicinal properties itself. Probably a drug would not evaporate a lot at temperatures higher than what is prescribed for its storage, but it could also be that its medicinal properties are killed when it is getting exposed to higher temperatures. That's a bigger risk. I mean, that the drug in that case probably could even act to be different, posing more side effects instead of curing the targeted disease or the problem with the patients. So that's the reason why there are very strict regulations also in fact imposed by the FDA in order to look at quality of the drug products transport as well. That's why, I mean, though we say that it applies to chemical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and also the food industry, maybe our emphasis is more biased towards the pharmaceutical industry for those right form of reasons. Well, how can simulations help? You will see more about these, like I said, in certain examples that follow from this particular slide. Maybe, like I said, instead of very directly diving into the main topic, we will give you certain glimpse of how exactly simulations can make a connection to realize a practical advantage. That's what we see in the next slides. They could also, for example, see what major or minor changes can be made to the shipping container so that it can be quickly, easily delivered with the quality expected, things like those. Yeah, what you're seeing here is basically a workflow of how things are getting simulated. What you see on this slide is, of course, a sort of clean in place pharmaceutical vessels or agitated tanks, they can get cleaned in place by putting up some sprays, and the spray is being rotated at a center, and it is with inertia spraying a lot of water or the cleaning fluid. And then due to the shear stress that is applied by the cleaning fluid on the walls of the container, anything as a material that sticks onto its walls, that can be kind of cleaned off. Well, it's not, as I said, directly related again to the logistics industry, but the workflow that you see here on this slide is pretty much going to be the same, even if you focus upon the logistics industry. So you kind of start with a 3D geometry, for example, of a shipping container, and then you do the mesh generation. It's about dividing that one internally in the software into really small volumes. As you can see here, it's a combination of so many polyhedral volumes after the mesh generation in the step 2. Step 3 is about really putting up process boundary conditions and other conditions, etc. So for example, if we are talking about some product which can perhaps undergo sublimation, uh, well, in that case, we are actually talking about mass transfer models. We do have phase change mass transfer models, which will require certain basic properties, like what is in that case the solidus temperature, liquidus temperature, maybe the saturation pressure, saturation temperature, standard state enthalpies, etc. So these are required, and these have to be entered as inputs. Then the outputs will constitute the exact evolution of mass fraction changes due to the particular phase change process being applied to that particular drug or whatever it is, food in the case losing moisture, etc. So these can be kind of simulated. What you see on the extreme right of this slide is wall film height, for example. So as I said, for example, hanging down there can be a spray. This is clean in place technology, clean in place. So you put up a spray, and the spray could have embarked onto these walls, creating a film-like structure. So it is possible to kind of calculate those effects. Not only that, the shear stress that is getting applied by a spray like that can also be calculated and shown up visually like that. So, what simulations bring up is also a visual retreat, a lot of opportunity to very clearly visualize data. So it's more like you can think about it as if a CT scan or an X-ray. So a doctor, in order to know the condition of a patient from his anatomy or so on, would get these CT scans or X-ray things be done, and a diagnosis is completed by doing so, wherein the treatment starts and so on. It's similar situation here. To complete efficiently the diagnosis by looking at the visual data, which perhaps is not available in that level of detail if you are just relying your observations upon physical experimentation. Well, there are so many unit operations which can be focused upon and which can be led to success by just using simulations within the pharmaceutical industry. It could be the most or the foremost ranking one is the mixing and scale up. So you can use a lot of models that can simulate for this. You will see it in the subsequent slide. And for the solids, it is about mixing, tablet compaction, etc. Even operations as much as vial filling can also be simulated. Spray drying, chromatography, clean in place is what we briefly spoke about. Lyophilization or freeze drying, and yes, cold chain shipping as well. We'll also see case studies and some examples of this. So what you see also in the animation on this slide is that impellers are moving up. There is a mixing that happens upon the red color that you see there is the place where air is actually present, and well, down there you do see with all the other colors the water or the water like medium in this particular case. So when the impellers are rotating, you see that the free surface, the surface between the red and the blue regions, is experiencing a distortion. This is just like in reality, we are able to model this by using appropriate values of surface tension over there between the air, which is in the red color zone, and sort of in the blue color zone down there, it is the liquid medium. The liquid and the air surface tension is properly accounted for, so that we are able to simulate something like this. Again, a powerful visualization which will assure you to do a proper diagnosis. In this case, well, usually the focus is upon determining a blend time that causes the uniform mixing. Well, in the same in the same league, you can also look at certain other simulations such as the bubble columns, reacting bubble columns. You can also look at the bubble size distribution over there. Again, it's a multi-phase case. So what we are looking here is, because of the red being the air and the blue thing being the liquid, you can say that it is the coexistence of two different phases and qualifies itself to be a multi-phase case. And you need certain multi-phase models mathematically to be present in the simulation software to simulate these sort of effects. Tablet compaction is a solid unit operation, but you can actually simulate it using finite element method. You need certain inputs, obviously, such as the density, Young's modulus, etc. of the tablet. And then as the time goes by, then the pinch on the tablet powder is increasing the applied force with the time. You can actually see the changes in the relative density of the powder that is getting compressed down there. And you can correlate it with a good tablet compaction or a bad tablet compaction. Yeah. So this is actually the vial filling. This is an interesting phenomena, which is actually being done using simulations. Again, emphasis is upon the multi-phase simulations itself. Because initially, before you fill it with water or whatever liquid it is in this case, it is initially filled with air. So it's obviously an interaction between air and the liquid that you're trying to introduce to be modeled out there. So the product quality is directly dependent upon the kind of turbulence that is generated, just as in the time of filling the vial. There are uh, there are shear rates that are responsible for that. You need to look at certain shear rates, shear stresses in the form of turbulence. Entrainment of air, of course, just as you go on to fill a particular vial at a particular rate. And then there is a roping phenomena that can happen within the liquid container. So all these can be directly related to the angle at which, for example, you're filling the vial, or at the rate at which you're giving the mass to proceed into the vial, or if the vial is experiencing any shaking during its filling itself, that could as well influence things. So basically, the air entrainment can influence the quality of material that goes into this vial. So that's probably also something related to the packaging industry, as they do the packaging into vials. Yeah. So those can be actually simulated, because the simulation interfaces provide you with multi-phase models which take into consideration the viscosity effects, the surface tension effects, etc. at all scales, and the turbulence effects, not to forget. There are processes such as spray drying, wherein again the physics changes. It is about the breakage of a continuous sheet of water or any liquid into droplets, and then the droplets are breaking again, forming a mist, and so on, with a different size, sort of size distribution, spreading parameters, etc. So since we do have the appropriate models to consider that, as in spray drying, it may also be high temperatures that are imposed into a zone. So you can consider these temperature effects along with the consideration to radiation heat transfer as well. So all these are covered through appropriate models that involve primary atomization, secondary atomization, and breakup models, etc. Well, chromatography as well, it is a way to separate certain useful ingredients, and it's possible to see through diffusion, porous media, characterization, etc., on how to look at the dispersion quality once it comes to chromatography. Yeah. Well, clean in place is something I think which we discussed already. Lyophilization, that's freeze drying, which involves processes such as maintaining a proper pressure, first of all, within the lyophilizer or lyophilization container or the equipment. And nextly, being able to simulate for sublimation as well. So yes, it's possible to simulate these effects as phase change. So now we come down to some phase cold chain shipping. What you need to find out through simulations, or what is usually found out through simulations, is the temperature variation within the shipping container as a function of time, and even the temperature variation for the frozen product as well as a function of time. So the variation of temperature at different locations as a function of time is what we focus upon as outputs of simulation when it comes to cold chain shipping. Well, this is some problem description wherein it's modeled as a 2D case. What you have here is a ice pack, which is modeled as a eutectic plate, and upon that there is a frozen product to be transported over there. So since the geometry has been symmetric, we take only half of it. In the interest of time, there is an insulated box as well. So you put some heat sources around it as well, and you try to heat it, and then according to that you try to see what kind of phase change occurs in both the frozen product and also the ice pack. So after 5 hours of some subjected heating, the heat is of course calibrated according to a solar load or any other load that can actually contribute to the heating of that particular transportation. And after 5 hours of heating, you get to see the temperature distribution like this at different places. So the air that is within the box is actually experiencing a lot of heat diffusion, and you can see the temperature field at every place basically. So that visualization is something which leads you to effective diagnosis, as we said, and that diagnosis and knowledge with authenticate data that is produced through simulations can guide you to take the right form of decisions. The problem in these type of simulations is to figure out a modeling approach which can consider good enough or small enough, I would say, of time scales, because when it comes to the transport of heat through diffusion or convection within the fluids and solids, you have to look at the thermal diffusivity actually, and the thermal diffusivity is definitely different for air and the wood or other packaging material that you talk about. So the time step size in simulations has to be selected very carefully, accounting for these differences in the thermal diffusivity, in fact, between the different materials. So when once a particularly decent value is estimated, it is definitely possible to simulate these effects in a shipping container. So you can also look at plots like these where you are looking at certain static temperatures at properly inserted monitor points. You can go to any XYZ location, insert monitor points, they become your probe points, to be honest. And those probe points give you the history of how temperature changes at that particular location in a time varying sense. Not only that, you can select certain domains, for example, in this case, the ice pack and also the frozen food zone over there, and you can monitor the volume averaged minimum temperature of food and ice pack in that case. So whatever you monitor can be generated out as a time bound data, data that is noted across the time basically, and that way you can find out the temperature variation. This is more important to find out how indeed it's possible to work with changing the refrigeration technique, or maybe changing the dimensions of the container and so on. As I said, there could be differently related ideas that are at a concept level just from the domain expertise. Well, you can in this video as well see how there is a crunching of the solid zone or the ice zone over there. So how the ice is melting can be seen directly like this in a given set of conditions over the time. The ice melting front was seen in the last one. And well, at different times, you can see the temperature field as well. You see, it can be recorded into a animation and seen in a more visualization sense. you have it after 12 hours, 24 hours, 36, 48 hours. So you really can simulate, and in fact, it is like looking at a futuristic effect directly in simulations. And look at other quantities like velocity, magnitudes, etc. as well by using simulations. Yeah. This is another example where different pieces of yogurt are actually placed. This is like a 3D simulation, of course. In this case, instead of a 2D simulation, we are able to perform 3D. And a lot of useful data has been extracted from simulations, especially about the temperature distributions within the container. And not only that, it was possible to place probe points within each of these yogurt like containers. And it was possible to find out the time uh, time-based change in the temperatures, transient change in the temperatures. So you can even record it like this, and you can, with the flow time, see how it's vary as a temperature at different points. Here you have like 9 yogurt containers, and essentially you can place a probe point as a location in all of these 9 of them, and really see not only the heat, but also if there are any phase changes. So in the last example where food is just transported by being placed upon an ice pack, we did see phase changes, results in phase changes as well. Yeah, so that's possible through simulations. Yeah, more insight on the variation of the time uh, and the variation of the temperature with the time in the same case. So you can have any sort of contours. So the contours at different sections give you a proper understanding of how the temperature field is evolving. So it's so dynamic as it is being exposed to certain transportation conditions, and therefore it is possible to look at how the temperature changes inside a important shipping container like that just through simulations. So this is a particular recent case study that we were talking about by a company in Switzerland, a logistics company called SkyCell AG. They have come up with a very innovative shipment container by using a intelligent or smart refrigeration system. Whenever we say smart, well, we have to think about this acronym IoT, Internet of Things. It obviously has to communicate with a tracking system. So these people from SkyCell have been transporting medical vaccines. They have a good experience and reputation in that area in Switzerland. So they stepped into using simulations to improve their construction of the uh, container for such sensitive operations. Well, they in fact ended up doing multi-physics simulations, which is to say, for example, they have to mount up certain antennas which are going to be linked to certain sensors as well. So they have a whole intelligent system being embedded into this particular container, wherein there are sensors placed at different places, and the sensors are actually always taking the reading of temperatures inside the container, and based upon those, always a response is triggered about improving, say, the circulation rate of the refrigerant or changing the temperature of the refrigerant dynamically. So what you also see in this colorful contours is the air velocities or the air temperatures of flow within the shipping container. So that is about CFD, of course. But talking about sensors and antennas, it is all about high frequency electromagnetics. So they were doing those simulations. And not only these two, I mean, they wanted to have lightweight containers, basically. In order to optimize that, you have to basically perform certain tests, such as the drop test or other load tests upon those containers. So after doing such testing with the simulations, I mean, virtually, after doing those type of simulations with a lot of concept ideas being tested, they are efficiently able to reduce the weight of these shipment containers. There are in fact some interesting statistics as well that we have here to be presented on that front. So in air freight, it is common, basically. In general, forget about all these developments. Let us talk about the state of the art in that particular logistics industry. So if you focus your attention onto that, you can find that in air freight, it is common for 1% and 10% of vaccines to be lost or damaged. I mean, if they are delayed by custom duties or so on, they can't really stay without any vaporization. As I said, they vaporize. if the temperature is out of the prescribed bounds, is higher than the prescribed bounds, and if that happens, in general, about 1% to 10% of vaccine mass will be lost. Well, that is depending upon the time by which it is delayed as well, but minimum to maximum it is 1% to 10%. But by this intelligent designing of a container, this particular company, SkyCell AG, has been able to bring down that percentage to as small as 0.1, that too in adverse conditions, of course. Yeah. It takes 3 months to build a physical prototype, of course. So building a prototype is not just about money, but it is about waiting for the launch of a product into the market, because manufacturing the prototype itself can take time. So in this case, their average time to build a prototype efficiently has been 3 months. So they are kind of out of that loop right now by using simulations, that too in a very smart multi-physics sense. So yeah, that's about it on the content which we intended to present today. So maybe if there are any questions, we can take up. And before that, one disclaimer maybe to state. Well, maybe certain nuances or greater level of details have not been disclosed or discussed at length through this webinar due to time constraints or the situational constraints. So if there is an interest to interact more, then definitely drop us an email at info@cadfem.in. Probably Prashant can also share you some